We relate to children as being innocent. Why? Because they don't understand what we understand. They don't yet understand what it means to be alive. They don't yet understand what it means to be responsible. They haven't learned enough about the game of life to play the game. And so we don't expect them, to be able to function the way an adult does, because they don't understand. From a spiritual perspective, from the perspective of what the possibility is of being awake, your average human being is a child. Your average human being doesn't understand the truth. That's why they continue to behave the way they do, just like a child behaves the way they do, because they don't understand yet how to behave in a more mature way. And the standard for understanding and the standard for maturity is set by the adults, right? We decide, what's real, what's true, what the standards for behavior are, what's crazy and what's sane. We decide what's crazy and what's sane. And one of the things that we did is we called crazy sane so that we don't have to deal with the truth about ourselves. We call crazy sane. We call our typical ways of thinking and acting and feeling and behaving normal. Normal. And yet, as a result of those ways of thinking and feeling and acting, we live in a world that's chaotic. We live in a world that's very dangerous, very threatening. And the source of the danger and the threat is our own behavior. It's our own behavior. So how mature are we? How much do we really understand? How much do adults really understand? When you consider normal, when you consider crazy to be normal, how much do you really understand? When you don't understand that you, in a condition that you're in terms of not knowing your true nature, in a condition that you're in terms of not being able to see things as they really are, you're living in a dream state. In a condition you're in like that, you're unable to act in your own best interest because you can't do anything that you disagree with, even if it's in your best interest. You can't do it. If the thoughts in your head are different, you can't do anything that you don't feel like doing, even if it's in your best interest. So the lack of understanding leaves people in a condition in which they're their own worst enemy. When you look at what's killing people more than anything else, especially in the richest country in the world, if you look at what's killing people more than anything else, it's their own behavior. It's their own attitude. It's their own behavior. It's their own inability to use intelligence to determine what you put in your mouth. To use intelligence to determine what you put in your mouth. The information is available. The information is available that you can learn about all of the chemicals that are in processed food. You can learn about the terrible diet that most people are stuffing down their throat that's being sold to them by McDonald's and Burger King and all the rest of it. But because you're conditioned to follow lies, because you're conditioned to follow your taste buds, you'll just keep eating the poison and destroying your body, killing your well-being, killing your health. And because most people don't feel like exercising, they don't. And because they don't, their bodies are in not good shape. And they don't live as long as they could otherwise live. And they don't feel as good as they could otherwise feel. But they can't do anything about it, they can't do anything about it, But isn't that a common statement that people make? I've struggled with my weight. I've struggled with my addiction. I've struggled with my relationship with my parents. I've struggled with my marriage, right? All this struggling going on, right? It's just another way of expressing your helplessness. That's all. You're just expressing your helplessness. You're not struggling with your weight, When it comes time not to eat, you're not struggling with your weight, you're eating. That's not struggling with your weight. Why? Because the craving for the taste, which represents a pleasure, right? The craving for the taste, which represents a pleasure, is more attractive than your health. It's more interesting than your health. And this form of craziness plays out in all the different ways that people are causing their own suffering and their own destruction. So left to your own devices, in the condition that human beings are in, left to your own devices, you're a destruction machine. You're a conflict machine. You're an ignorance machine. You're a self-depreciation machine. And I say machine because it is mechanical. The mind is a mechanical process, right? It keeps generating thoughts based on your past experience, right? You don't have to do anything. It just does it by itself, right? But you listen to it as if it's got wisdom. You listen to it as if you should follow what it says because it's telling you the truth. That's not hard to discover is not real. That's not hard to discover. Once you start to wake up, it's not hard to discover that the voice in your head is not your friend. It doesn't give a shit about your well-being. It's operating to produce an effect. It's operating to survive as a identity. It's operating to maintain the identity of you as a personality. That's what it's doing. It doesn't care how long you live. It doesn't care if you're happy. All it cares about is you as a personality continue to exist. And your existence as a personality is a function of thinking, is it not? That's why in meditation we're practicing that you don't have to think to know. We're practicing the discovery that you don't have to think to know. You can actually be aware, and the awareness can know. By paying attention and seeing things as they are, the awareness can know. So when you wake up and you discover your true nature is awareness, it starts to get harder to be stupid. It starts to get harder to be ignorant because you're seeing it. You're seeing how you're causing your own suffering. You're seeing it. You start to notice that somebody says something to me, and then something happens in my emotional experience called anger, and then thoughts begin to occur that say, oh, that person's this and that person's that, and they're disrespectful and they don't care about you. You have to do something about this. You can't let this go on. And you just ignorantly follow the whole process, right? And then you say something to the person, and you say it loud, right? And you say it with the intention of being caustic, or you say it with the intention of being critical, right? Because your anger is being expressed. Your anger is being expressed. You're trying to make it clear to them you don't like it. You don't like what they're doing. You don't like what they're saying. Of course, then their system reacts to that the same way that you're reacting to them, and then you're both helplessly in conflict. Helplessly in conflict. This goes on all the time. It doesn't take much. Somebody can just be driving too slow in front of you, and before you know it, everybody's got the index finger out. See? Or worse. And if you understand reality and you know what's possible, you understand the truth about the condition we're living in. That we're living among people in the collective society. We're living among people that are crazy. Even when you wake up, when you wake up and you know the truth and you know who you are, you know who other people are too, so you're kind to them because you know they're crazy. You know who other people are too, so you're kind to them and you're polite to them because you don't want to set them off. They might have a gun. Yeah. They might have a gun. And the world we live in today, it's not just the index finger. If you give somebody the index finger, you could be facing bullets. So if you're awake, you understand that the condition that we live in is dangerous. It's dangerous, right? Because we're all living our lives as if we're all separate countries, right? We're like separate countries, right? Boundaries, right? Don't cross my boundary. Don't violate my laws, like we're separate countries. I saw a headline in the paper the other day about this smoke thing that's going on, that's polluting the air, right? It was so indicative because it just shows the collective personality. This was the headline on one of the major newspapers. It said, "Blame Canada."
Yeah.
What? Blame Canada for the weather? Blame Canada for the smoke? Who would blame Canada? Blame the country? What do you mean? Blame the country? Blame the people? That's crazy. And it's a headline. It's a headline. It's a headline because we live in a society now, we live in a condition now where that's more important than anything else, is whose fault is this? We're going to get to the bottom of this. You know, I personally don't believe that there's more corruption now than there ever was, right? But it's popular now just to find it, you know, to find out. It's interesting, one of the paradoxes of the political situation that we find ourselves in now is that the political situation a reality got generated by politicians and political leaders, you know, that we should find fault with the other party. We should look into things, right? We should investigate things because these people are doing things that are unlawful. They're doing things that are unright. And now, because that's caught on, it's become the popular way of dealing with everything. Whose fault is this? We have to punish somebody. We have to find blame, you know? It's not important for us to try and find out what went wrong and correct it so it doesn't keep happening. We're not even paying attention to that. We just want to find out who did it so we can punish them. This comes from unfortunately, it comes from one of our major religions, right? Sin and punishment comes from one of our major religions. So you don't get to make a mistake and go unpunished. You don't get to make a mistake and go unpunished. You know, if you make a mistake and you get caught and you're violating the law, our system is set up in a way where what we're going to do is make you suffer for having made that mistake. We're going to make you suffer. We're not just going to isolate you. You know, a correction system, we call it corrections just so nobody really complains about the truth, that it's not correcting anything, right? A real correction system would isolate people that were dangerous, right? Until their behavior was corrected. And once their behavior is corrected, let them go back and participate in society, right? But that's not how the system works. That's not how the system works. It's ironic, you know, that the punishment for the worst behavior you can commit is to commit that behavior on you. The punishment for the worst behavior you can commit, which is to murder somebody, right? We'll commit that same behavior on you. That's the punishment. It's crazy. It's crazy. And this craziness and this corruption is not new, and the corruption stems from how corrupt the personality is. The personality is corrupt. Personality has no morality. The personality will do whatever it wants to do, whatever it feels like doing, whatever it thinks to do to get what it wants. Right? So there's greed, right? And there's manipulation. That's the personality. And we'll elect people to be our leaders who are corrupt and greedy, right? We'll vote for them because they're like us. We're corrupt and greedy. And maybe we can have corrupt and greed become the thing that operates everything, you know, so then we can get rid of the people that are on the low end of things, you know, push them down harder. The people that are in control, give them more control, right? This is headed for a very big disaster. This is headed for a very, very big disaster. And at the discovery of nuclear weapons, the scientists who discovered nuclear weapons originated a concept called the doomsday clock. These are the scientists that discovered nuclear weapons. They originated a concept called the doomsday clock. And what they said is now that we have the ability to destroy the entire planet, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. And recently, with recent things happening in the world where countries are now threatening using nuclear weapons, right? The people that are now in control of this concept called the doomsday clock, they moved the hands on the clock closer to the end. And there are scientists that are telling us that in terms of the situation as far as the environment is concerned, there are scientists that are saying it's already too late. It's already too late. All that's left now is whether we accurately calculate the end. That's all that's left.
So we should not worry about it, just live our lives now.
Exactly. Exactly. Now watch, exactly. Exactly. Not only can you not do anything about it, but if you wake up and you wake up to the truth, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you wake up to the truth, your own mortality doesn't matter. Because you realize that in truth, the reality in truth is that everything's going to end. The sun's going to burn out. This planet's going to end. Everything's impermanent. Your life is impermanent. Your body's impermanent. Everything's impermanent, right? So you don't have to worry about getting involved in how bad it is anymore, because the end's going to come anyway. It's just a matter of how it happens. Just a matter of how long it takes, right? This is why the understanding is so critical, and I'm glad you pointed that out, Jerry. This is why the understanding is critical. I'm painting a desperate picture for you, right? So you understand you better get out of that condition as soon as possible. If you don't, there's a lot worse suffering on the horizon if you don't. There's a lot worse suffering. We're blessed, to be in a situation that's relatively safe, right? But if you lived in Ukraine right now, right, it wouldn't be like that. If you lived near that dam, it wouldn't be like that, right? If you lived near that nuclear thing there, that nuclear plant, it wouldn't be like that. So we keep living in this bubble. This safe bubble that we can watch the news, and it's not happening to us. It's happening to the people in the Ukraine, or it's happening to the people in Mexico, or it's happening to some people in, and we're interested in watching the news every day to see what's so bad elsewhere so we can enjoy that it's not happening here. But the problem with that is that you're ignoring a condition that will eventually occur to you. You're ignoring a condition that will eventually occur to you. There is no protection from time. There's no protection from atrophy. There's no protection from the fact that your body's going to die. There's no protection from the fact that you're going to get sick. There's no protection from life, the unpredictability of life, people could be sitting here right now, and this could be the last week of your life, and you have no idea. No idea. You're living with the ignorant assumption that you got life to spend. You got time to use. That's an ignorant assumption to make. And if you don't make that assumption, and you realize you don't have time to waste, and you don't have time to use, and you realize that this very moment is your entire life, then the understanding of that will motivate you to come out of the conditioning. The understanding of that will motivate you to do whatever it takes to wake up and stay awake, so that you can experience the freedom and you can experience the possibility of being happy and having a satisfied experience of your life, regardless of the circumstances, right? So in the beginning of what I was talking, I was painting a picture of the circumstances, right? Dismal, it's dismal, right? And so you're listening to that, and it's like, oh shit, right? But then, what I'm saying now is, but those circumstances don't matter if you wake up, because if you wake up to a transcendent wisdom that transforms your experience of who you are and what life is in such a way that there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. You don't fear your own death, and you don't fear the circumstances that you find yourself in. You don't fear the condition that exists, right? And the way you come to see it and look at it is it's taking care of itself. It's a cause and effect reality. Right? If people keep causing negative effects, and those negative effects keep causing negative effects, that's the way it's going to turn out. That's the way it's going to happen. And this reality that's occurring, right, is that what's causing this reality is beyond the idea that human beings per se are causing it. It's beyond the idea that human beings per se are causing it, because they're being used by the conditioning that's running them. And that conditioning comes from all the previous causes and effects that have occurred that ended up here. So we're talking about a situation, we're talking about a condition that you cannot control. We're talking about, and the deepest of all teachings have to do with destiny. the thing that I hesitate to talk about because the personality rails against that conversation. The personality hates the idea that there's no control. Personality hates the idea that there's no free will. Personality hates the idea that everything's predetermined. That's because the personality doesn't realize that the freedom that's available is a function of understanding that that's the truth. The freedom that's available is a function of understanding that everything is predetermined. Just consider, if it's true that everything is predetermined, then is there anything to get upset about and worry about?
Yeah.
This is why they say in the teachings and the practices, what are we doing? We're developing our ability to experience ourselves as a witness. We're developing our ability to experience ourselves as a witness, not a player, not a doer, not somebody who can save the world, not somebody who can change anything. No, we're developing our ability to be here as a witness that's unaffected by the circumstances. And in that state of being in which you're a witness that's unaffected by the circumstances, you can relax and enjoy yourself. When the party's over, it's over. When the lights go out, they go out. When you die, you die. You know, there's nothing to be concerned about. Because you're experiencing a transcendental state in which you're related to reality beyond the form. You're related to reality beyond the form of your body, beyond the form of the personality. And you're related to reality beyond the form because your very nature, your identity is beyond the form. It's beyond the form. I'm not going to answer your question tonight. I'm going to use it. And the way I'm going to use it is to say that one of the parts of the process of awakening is to become the debater about reality. But what about this? And isn't that true, right? To become the debater with reality. And you can't help it. It's not Brian's fault. I mean, he's an intelligent man, right? But you can't help it. That's the personality. That's the personality trying to maintain its existence. By questioning things, right? But the thing that you have to understand is in order to get further along in this process of deconditioning the conditioning, in order to get further along in the process, you have to have faith in the truth, which means that you no longer entertain doubts, you no longer entertain considerations, because you accept completely that the truth is true.
But doesn't that take away motivation?
No, it increases motivation. Because if you accept if you accept completely that the truth is true, therefore you have faith in the truth, right? Then you humble yourself to that. You don't think about it like, oh, is that really true? Well, what about this particular situation? Or what about that particular situation? Because the mind and the personality is a circumstantial reality. So it wants to talk about circumstances. Well, isn't it true that it's probable that you'll be in better shape if you work out? Yeah, that's true. But what did I say earlier? Nobody has the ability to do anything consistently enough to produce the result. So it doesn't matter what's probable, you know? If you walk around here and look around during the day, you see a lot of good-intended people who are doing basically nothing. The fact that if you understand the way things really work, right? That you stop entertaining your doubts about it, humble yourself, and give that energy to realizing the truth. That's why, for example, in Zen, if you go to do a sesshin, which is a Zen retreat where you practice meditation, right? It automatically eliminates anybody that's not humble enough to practice the truth. It automatically eliminates them because you can't go there and practice that tradition without being humble. Why? Because as soon as you walk into the Zendo, what's the first thing you do?
Bow.
You bow. That means you're respecting the truth. You're not there to test it. You're not there to try it out. You're there to respect it. And when you go to a session, when you go to a 7-day retreat, right, you sit in meditation in 30-minute meditation sessions 7 or 8 times a day. And in between that, you do walking meditation. And in between that, you do service at the meditation center, right? An ego cannot do that. An ego cannot do that. So it's self-selecting. Nobody will be interested in going to that. You know, I remember in the past sharing with different people about going to retreats like that or going to the Vipassana 10-day retreat, which is an hour sit. And you sit about 10 times a day, an hour sit. 10 days in a row silent, right? I remember talking to people about that, and they would say, oh, I could never do that. That's out of the question. You've self-selected yourself out of it, right? The only people that could do that are people who are humbling themselves to the truth and realizing it's not a matter of whether I can do it, it's a matter of whether I feel like it. It's a matter of whether I want to or not. And of course you don't feel like it and you don't want to, because what you want to do is, you know, continue to eat McDonald's. What you want to do is watch TV. What?
Recently said just enough ego to function or something like
That's right.
Is what you say, Brian?
No, there was a thing on Facebook that said, how much ego do you need, you know? And I forget what the thing said there.
that. Something about just enough ego to function or something.
Yeah, but I added to it and it said, just enough ego to wake up, you know? You need to have a strong personality to be able to deal with suiciding it. And you need to have a strong personality to put yourself in a position like going to a session, going to a 7-day intensive, right? Because that's gonna do severe damage to your ego. So you have to have a strong enough ego to subject yourself to that damage. It's an interesting concept when you think about it, right? Your ego gets interested in this possibility because it looks like, wow, this is everything I ever wanted. This guy's talking about being happy. This guy's talking about, you know, well-being. He's talking about experiencing peace. He's talking about experiencing satisfaction. That's what I'm chasing all the time, right? So if that's available, I definitely want that, right? But that's the ego that wants it, right? So then the ego starts practicing meditation, starts reading the teaching, starts getting interested and involved in all this, right? And at some point it starts to occur to the ego that the ultimate sacrifice is that you have to give up your own existence to have what you really want. The ultimate sacrifice. So when you understand that, now see, when you understand that, but you understand because of you understand that that's not a problem because this ego isn't real. The death of the ego is no death at all, because the death of something that doesn't exist is no death at all.
And you already have what you're seeking.
That's right. So when you really understand the concepts and everything, you'll go and put yourself into a retreat, right? You'll subject the ego to its death. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? That who you think you are wants to be who you really are, right? And so the process is one at a certain point, it will suicide. It will suicide because it comes to understand that it's not real, and what is real can only exist if you no longer identify with what's not real. So what do? You put yourself in a situation where what's not real can't be there. You know, if you go to a meditation retreat, what's not real can't be there. Can't be there because you're practicing not paying attention to it. That's what meditation is. Paying attention means you're paying attention not to pay attention to the thought process, and the thought process generating the idea that you are a body and a personality. So you deprive it of that. You deprive it of that. And you're willingly depriving it of that, right? So it can go out of existence. It won't go out of existence like it's not there. It'll go out of existence like you're not it. That's how it'll go out of existence. You need to have a personality to play this game, right? But you'll continue to have a personality, but once you wake up, now you're looking at the personality be crazy, and you're withdrawing interest in that craziness. And as you withdraw interest in that craziness, the personality goes sane. It goes sane. It starts to be able to do the impossible. It starts to be able to eat the food that's healthy. It starts to be able to exercise in a way that actually works. You know? I get it. People come to the gym and they have a good intention. You know, they mean well. You know, they want to lose weight. They want to get in shape. I get it, right? But if you actually watch most of them, not all of them, but if you actually watch what most of them do, what they're doing isn't going to do anything. You know, they get on a machine for 10 minutes, right? At a slow pace while they're on the phone. And then that's enough. Oh, I did enough of that. I don't feel like doing that anymore. You know, I'll go over here. I'll walk on the track.
Better than watching the news.
I don't think it's better than watching the news. It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's just a different dream. It's different dream. It's just a different form of the dream. It's a better dream than watching the news, but it's still a dream. And it's still not acting in your own best interest because you're really not doing what it takes to get the result you want. That's why athletes who have the ability to perform at a very high level, they have to pay somebody a lot of money to make them do it. Right? They have to pay somebody a lot of money to make them do it because they can't do it. So again, what I've been talking about tonight is understanding the truth, understanding the condition that human beings are in, and understanding that unless you do what it takes to wake up, your life will be like most other human beings' lives. There'll be a lot of suffering, you'll be terrified of death, and then you'll die. And between now and then, you'll keep trying to be happy, you'll keep trying to be satisfied, you'll keep doing what they tell you to do to be satisfied. Get more education, make more money, be more manipulative, have an attractive body. All the things, and it's amazing when you look at it that people do all that and never really realize that it's a failed system. It doesn't work. You don't end up happy. You don't end up satisfied. You don't end up safe. You don't end up feeling sane. You can't sleep at night. There's so much tension in your body that you're uncomfortable in your own skin. You can't sleep at night. Your life becomes about looking for relief, looking for distractions, looking for relief. How is that workable? How is that workable? And here we are talking about something that actually delivers. It actually works. It actually works. The truth actually works, and it is actually available, but it's not free lunch. It's not going to happen to you. You have to cause it. You have to cause this. And the way you cause it is to make contact with your true nature. That has to happen. You have to make contact with your true nature to understand this conceptually isn't enough. It won't carry you through. To understand this conceptually won't carry you through. Because what will carry you through, the thing that will ensure that you get the results is persistence, diligence, being constant, right? Never giving up, right? That's what will get you through this, because the challenges that your mind will present to you will be something that you can't succeed at overcoming unless you understand what's going on and unless you make contact with your real nature. Because if you don't make contact with your real nature, it's the personality in conflict with itself. If you don't make contact with your real nature, it's the personality in conflict with itself. You have to get out of that system and see it for what it is, and then deal with it to reorganize it in a way that works. And you can't do that without understanding your true nature and without making contact with your true nature. And that contact is not that hard to, how hard can that contact be to make when you're being it?
Don't some people actually wake up when they give up?
Everybody that wakes up has to give up. That's an essential part of it. Anybody who has an awakening experience has it right after they give up. Because who is it that's giving up? The ego. Yeah, and that's what's in the way. So as soon as you give that up, as soon as you surrender to the reality that this will never work, and you're not going to continue to try and make it work, right? As soon as you do that, then what's been there all along appears.
So you're pushing us to be diligent and keep doing this until we break.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's the way it goes. I'm sorry.
That's why so many people quit.
That's right.
Because the ego sees that.
Yeah. That's
Then
right.
it has to give itself up, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's why most people quit, because when the challenges get strong enough, right? What do you say? I can't do this. Who can't do this? Me, the personality, can't do this. It's too hard. It doesn't look like it's going to work. I have doubts about it, right? So now that you're all desperate, enjoy the rest of the night.